All right, I'll keep letting people in here. Sassy, you and Mike start off and we'll jump right in.
Well, first, I think we'd like to pass the mic to one of the reasons we're all here. This is a great idea, and somebody had to have it to come together and really have this brilliant conversation. And so I'd love to start by just passing the mic to Elizabeth who's a New America Fellow, just to tee us up a little bit on, why this wonderful idea and how did we come to be?
Great, thanks, Kate. Hi, everyone from Detroit. I'm super happy to be present on this. I wasn't entirely sure I would make it because I'm still in deep recovery from COVID. So I will be partly on mute for this. But I'm very happy to see such a great group come together. I'm working as a fellow with New America. I'm focused on building an economy rooted in solidarity and well-being in collaboration with many, many great folks. And just delighted we can start to bring together this multi-part conversation on this theme of good work in light of the solidarity principles. We know that there are just a lot of really robust conversations today around the theme of quality work and jobs. And that's a robust conversation. It's incredibly important. And I also think solidarity and the solidarity principles bring a sort of new dimension to that conversation. It's a really powerful moment today to discuss the nature of work, its role, its meaning, its purpose in our lives, and the attributes of what makes it something that actually supports our individual and our collective flourishing. So our hope is that through storytelling and through the space that we'll try to hold today and in the following conversations to come, that we can start to create a trust of folks who can come together with really honest and candid conversation around this topic of what good work looks and feels like in our lives. So I'm just delighted that we're working together with Ownership Matters and Shareable and Zebras Unite as the team to kind of kick off this very first conversation. And I'm going to pass it over to Elias Krim with Ownership Matters to help preview the agenda today. Thanks, everyone.
I just want to do a quick shout out of thanks to, first of all, Elizabeth in New America and her colleagues, several of whom are here. Shareable, Tom Llewellyn and Robert Raymond are behind the scenes here doing a great job helping us pull this together. Zebras Unite, love the dazzle. Got to keep that dazzle going. And the Francesco Collaborative, Felipe Witchker is not here, but he is a great supporter of ours. And our dream team of Sassy and Mike. I just want to mention quickly that there's a follow-up event in July. We don't have a firm date, but because you signed up for this one, hopefully you'll get a note letting you know about a webinar on social care and social co-ops, which is something we haven't talked about a whole lot, it doesn't seem, but that's coming up. On September the 1st, we're aiming to launch the Solidarity Workshop, which I won't go into right now, but a new project, a research consortium around the solidarity economy that we are excited about. And finally, as you see, we're recording, and this is going to go on the Ownership Matters YouTube channel. So, hey, thanks everybody. I'm really looking forward to what's about to happen here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Elias. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'll just jump in real quick. I am privileged to be one half of your facilitation team today. My name is Kate, or Sassy, whichever y'all prefer. I go by she, they pronouns, and I am in Berkeley, California, also known as Ohlone Land. And I am a lifelong cooperativist. I have been privileged to actually only work for 2 years of my entire adult career in a non-cooperative context. So I have lived and breathed and received the benefits of really good work. And can speak to, even when it's challenging, the material and social and spiritual benefits have been immeasurable. And so I bring that lens to today, as well as 20 years of facilitation practice in amazing anti-oppressive environments. And so I hope to bring some of that with us today and hold space for that. And I also currently serve as the Director of Cooperative Membership over at Zebras Unite Co-op, which is a new multi-stakeholder co-op attempting to build the capital, culture, and community for the next economy. And so I bring that lens with me today into this world. But with that, I'm gonna be holding space. I'm watching the chat. We're gonna be passing the mic. So do reach out to either me or Mike if you need any assistance at any point, as well as our tech folks. And with that, pass the mic to Mike, my delightful co-lead.
All right, thank you very much, Sassy. And I am co-host or host part 2 Second half of the team, Mike Tech Strode. I reside here in the Three Fires Confederacy, Ottawa, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Anishinaabe, and Kickapoo land, otherwise known as Southeast Chicago. And I am a program manager, or rather my first head is founding coordinator of the Cold Nut Collaborative, a Chicago area time bank, trading time as a currency, community asset mapping, network weaving, all of those sorts of things. But the other hat is as program manager of Open Collective Foundation, a national nonprofit fiscal sponsor of more than 300 civic, social, mutual aid educational groups around the US. And something that, you know, and a space that bloomed in the wake of the mutual aid groups of 2020, who were looking for fiscal sponsorship and were looking for a radical fiscal sponsor, or someone who wasn't going to kind of box them in and constrain their work. And they found us, or rather we found one another. And so, you know, as the world changed, so did we. And so my current work with Open Collective Foundation is, unlike Sassy, I did not spend most of my adult life in cooperatives. I spent 20 years in corporate technology, but my work right now is a product of the Great Resignation. So, you know, in this time, in this moment where people are like, we don't have to work in places we don't like, I found a place that I preferred and I left. And so that is where we are, what we are on, and that is what we are going to be talking about today. How do we get to that good workspace? What does it look like? And what are we going to be doing here? So I'm going to pitch it back to Sassy to preview our agenda.
Absolutely. So many good, juicy people in this room. We're going to basically do a lot of passing the mic around here today. So we have some amazing humans with us. We are going to basically do a series of informal conversations with really incredible movers and shakers, making and manifesting good work in their workplaces. So we're going to kick it off with, first, Mike's going to give us a little overview of what are the solidarity economy principles, so we can kind of ground in a framework for that. Then we're going to dig into principles 1 and 2, accountability and relationship, and resources and shared vision, with some folks from the Arizmendi Association and from Material Return. Then we'll kick it to principles 3 and 4, liberation culture and democracy in process, by hearing from the folks at Shy Fresh Kitchen and Cooperatus. And then we'll bring it home with principle 5, education and leadership development, by talking with Bourne Brown and the Church of the Holy City. We'll hopefully have a little bit of time at the end where we can actually break out and discuss amongst each other and amongst ourselves what we heard, what's sparking for us, what's bringing joy, and what's bringing some liberation energy to our own work. And then we'll roll it on home, say hi, and we're a big fan of ending meetings on time, if not even a symbolic minute early, to make sure that we respect each other's time and availability. So that's the arc of the time. If you've got we have slides, and we will be sharing those, so you will get that list of who's presenting and who's with us today. So don't worry about that. But with that, I think I'll pass it back to Mike to kick us off with the solidarity economy principles.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to heavily footnote this by dropping some things in the chat. I am obligated and responsive. I have a responsible requirement that, you know, as a board member of U.S. Solidarity Economy Network and New Economy Coalition, that, you know, whenever we talk about the solidarity economy principles, we're going to talk about this principles and practices project, which is one thing, but we also want to make sure that we are grounded in these global principles, you know, as espoused by RAPES, the Intercontinental Network for the Advancement of the Social and Solidarity Economy. And those principles are generally around 5 in nature, right? We're talking about solidarity, equity in all dimensions, participatory democracy, sustainability, pluralism. So these are all, you know, really important key grounding principles of the larger global solidarity economy. And this Principles and Practices project comes out of organizers who were interested and engaged in those principles, who are actively working on those principles in their work and in their workplaces and in their communities, and ultimately, you know, are trying to navigate how do we show up in our work? How do we enact these principles in the work that we are doing? How do we actualize these things? So that's the balance of things that you have in the chat. You've got some insights from U.S. Solidarity Economy Network and New Economy Coalition there, but you also have that Solidarity Economy Principles website that you can view, which will be where we will be pulling material from as we have these conversations with folks who are engaged in good workplaces today. So with that, we are all queued up for our first segment, and I want to invite Adriana Fajardo and Bob Carswell to the floor. So we've got Adriana Fajardo, who's going to be sharing with us about Arizmendi Association, and I will be, engaging around the question of accountability and relationship as it's present in Arizmendi, and then Bob Carswell from Material Return, whom I will be talking with about resources and shared vision. So first, I just want to make sure that we have both of them queued up. I don't know if we can do the 3-part spotlight, but we won't try to the technicals right now. So first, I just want to read a little bit from the accountability and relationship section of the Solidarity Economy Principles, and then I'll just pitch it over to you, Adriana, to kind of provide feedback or talk about accountability and relationship. So in order for an enterprise to do good work, it must exercise accountability in relationships, which should include concern for community, which is cooperative principle number 7, go cooperators. Other aspects of these values include trust building, capacity for mediation, and the concern for transformative justice. That's a tiny bit of what you'll see on the Solidarity Economy Principles website. But Adriana, how does accountability and relationship for you show up in Arizmendi? And certainly, I would invite you to just talk about your role and your work within Arizmendi as a part of that.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Well, accountability is kind of like you join a family or marriage. A lot of times I think like I just got married to 28 people. I work at Arizmendi Lakeshore, and it's a bakery, pizzeria, co-op owner. And just simply like you work it, you own it. And the accountability, like if something goes south, it's not like, oh, I made a mistake. We all want this. But also if something goes really good, we all got some benefit from that. And that's why we're able to keep up with the, the good work, and therefore the good life for us, and get involved with the community and just adapt and move with the movement of the world, Should I say other stuff or wait for questions? Sorry.
Well, no, absolutely. Well, we're gonna back and forth between you and Bob in just a moment. But what's your particular role in Arizmendi?
I work full time. I do since ring the register. I make the doughs. I bake the scones, the muffins. I produce all the dough for the pizza the night before. I'm pretty much trained for doing anything here. We do croissants, and that's the only thing I'm not trained to do croissants this evening, but I know I do the croissant dough, cookies, anything. As the moment you walk in, I'm on all over the floor. I work right now. I work 3 mornings and 2 nights. So I'm going from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. And then today, actually, right now I'm on my break lunch. I start at 3:30 and I'm off 11:30. And customers, and the line gets long. I go help the front. We get a little break from the customers. I come back and break the recycling, from little things to big things. I count the money in the morning, if it's needed. And therefore.
Okay. And so I'm hearing that you show up in a lot of different ways in your workplace, and that when you're seeing something that, potentially is dropping out, you have a process whereby you can identify this is something that we need to address, and this is how I'm going to pick it up. So is that
correct? Yes, and like priorities, like we got a order for paper bags, but the line of the customers is out the side. So we go on the front, help the line, and then the paper they can wait. But as a team, we know I don't need to explain myself. We know that they got me and I got them, whoever's working right now on the floor. We're all accountable for it. We all try to put our own legs.
Okay. And so I want to first invite Bob in, and then hopefully we'll get some just back and forth, and maybe we can share some accountability processes that you all might be using in your different cooperatives. But so we've also got now Bob from Material Return, and we wanted to talk a bit with Material Return about the resources and shared vision, where we wanted to invite you, Bob, to kind of comment on the resources and shared vision, where it discusses a good place is inspired by the values of autonomy and independence in line with cooperative principle number 4, as well as transparency of financials and data, the sovereignty of labor over capital, vision of Mondragon, the importance of participatory process processes, trade networks, and social auditing. So I know that's a mouthful. That's quite a bit. So I just want to invite you, Bob, to talk about both material return and then how might elements of that principle show up in the workplace you all have designed there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Bob Carswell, and I am the R&D director of Material Return. And Material Return is just one of the co-ops that has been incubated here in North Carolina. We have a really good network of mills and manufacturers and everything to do with textiles and furniture here. We really saw a need for just textile waste solutions in the U.S. There almost are none. So it was a good opportunity to start a co-op off of this because we don't want this extractive form of labor in our area to happen. So usually a giant monolith company will come in, open up a factory, hire 1,500 people, and then 2, 3, a decade or two later, that just leaves, and then all of those folks are out of work. So if we put it into the co-op principle and have this network of smaller manufacturers all working on a bigger project together, you're just more nimble and able to handle what the market throws at you. And we've got a great network here. We also have another producers cooperative that's our sister co-op called the Carolina Textile District, which is a huge network of cut and sew mills, weaving mills, knitting mills, anything to do with textiles, that we more or less already had a huge client group to go out and pick up their textile waste, transform it into something new. And being an R&D director for a business like this, that there's really no way to actually say, hey, this is how you recycle textiles. We've just had to develop it and learn it as we go. And it's amazing to do something like this because you wouldn't think of a co-op doing these very intricate research and development contracts with huge brands. We've got some great brands that are really, really well-minded, that are values driven and really want to become circular. And whenever I say circularity, that means the product goes in, if it's a used sock, it comes out on the other side as a brand new sock through our process. It's one of the first in the US, so we're kind of proud of that. And being able to build it as a co-op from the start with worker agency at the forefront of the circular economy is the most important thing to us. We do a lot of financial transparency and financial literacy training here. We run and also have the training program in-house too, but we do run something called the Great Game of Business, which is just financial transparency, and everyone on the floor, myself and the other 6 employee owners that are on the floor, all know the P&L like the back of our hands, and we all stay awake at night worrying about that P&L instead of just one person at the top knowing all the numbers. We all know the score, and we're all fighting for the same reason. So it's really important to help our employees grow, not just that lead man at the top. Everybody here is a part of the business, and they own that business. And they want it to move forward. But yes, any other questions, Mike? Sorry.
Absolutely. No, that was very robust. And I want to, so I'm going to maybe visit the accountability question over to you and then transfer this transparency question back over to Adriana in a moment, just so we get that interplay going. What does accountability and relationship look like in material return? You have this process of this transparency. So we know that, only one part of transparency is like sharing information. The other part is like, what are the processes I can follow to check in with someone about something that I had a question about, or that's of a concern. So yes, what does accountability and relationship look like in material return?
Absolutely. It's kind of a twofold thing. So we do have our accountability. I'll kind of go over the accountability with our employee owners and worker owners. Everyone here is cross-trained on every single job. So that means if we're a small team, and we have to be small whenever you're just starting out and have a startup, we're only 3 years old and we're taking on contracts for millions and millions of pounds of waste every year. We wear a lot of hats. I'll be sweeping the floors and cleaning the bathrooms one day. The next week, the guy that is running the baler or the new machine is doing that. We all are looking at the P&L every day. Like every guy has a login to QuickBooks, so that way we can send out POs and look at the P&L when we need to. And what that entails is it gives that person ownership of their future. they know that, hey, we're going to be short, 2,000, 2,000 this month on our bottom line. Let's see if we can go out and grab, 10 more contracts. So that way we can pick up this much waste and get that much money. It's just, it's incredible because I'm not the only one worrying about this. Like if I was to start this company up by myself, I would have probably already been dead and just my head would be completely gray. But it's so nice having people there to back you up. And the accountability is on ourselves as much as anything. I'm harder on myself than anyone anyone that would be a supervisor to me would be, as well as the guys on the floor. They know they come up whenever something happens that didn't come off the right way or they messed up an order, whatever it is. They know it happened. They caught it before somebody above them had to. And that's important too. We also send every one of our employees through supervisor training. So that means that in manufacturing, usually what happens, a supervisor, the only reason they get moved up to supervisor is because of seniority and because they were good at their job. That doesn't mean they're good at supervising people. So we made sure that we sent people through these supervisor trainings to help that. And that helps in both ways. Even if they're not a supervisor, they understand the things that supervisors have to work with and have to do to make the folks accountable for what they do. And then the other side of the accountability is we work with every single textile manufacturer in Western North Carolina in some way or another, whether we're using them for contract work, whether we're actually providing a service for them or providing products. So we have accountability to our community to make this work and make it affordable and not just a boutique service and boutique products. We have to make it work for manufacturers here as well. So we have accountability to our community and also an accountability to start the next co-op. So the incubator that helped us get the startup funds that we need, we are going to pay back into a loan fund to start the next co-op. So we're one of the first few. There's already 3 more that have sprouted up right behind us, and they all work on things that come out of our pipeline or come before our pipeline. So it's like we just keep, anytime we see an issue, we just start a co-op if we need a business.
All right, and that is certainly in keeping with the cooperative principle in practice. I want to bring it back to Adriana and, just share with us anything that's happening within Arismendi that maybe relates to some of those resources, the resource discussion that we've just had with Bob, resources and shared vision. How do you all keep people on the same page? How are you all sharing information internally, maintaining transparency? Just anything you would like to share in terms of your practices and your process to make sure everyone feels bought into the total project.
Yeah, of course. The process for us with transparency is everything we do here, even pick up trash. Like when the beans go outside, we call it committees, and then anybody can join any committee, from the recycling committee to the finances committee or hiring committee or personal committee. So if you had some forces that you like as a personal individual, like I like fixing things, I'm on maintenance committee, or I like planning the pizza, so I'm on pizza planning. Or somebody else good with numbers, they're like, they're on finances committee. But also they're like, I'm not really good with finances, but I'm on finances committee because I like to get involved and learn, and I'm able to be on it. And therefore, so all we committees, we trying to subsidize the decisions, because it's hard to make one decision when you had 28 members on a round circle versus when you're in a small committee with 4 or 5 members, you have the authority to make decisions. You get 3 out of the 5 members agree on it. And then if it's a bigger major decision, then you bring it to the group. We meet once a month, first Monday of the month. And we all talk from little things from like, hey, I have a wedding coming up. There is no more space on vacation. I really need those days. And we all talk about it and see how people be like, okay, I'm willing to work that day. Or, hey, I have a vacation, I cancel for you. So transparency goes like anything you want to know, the door is open for you to join the committee. And if you're not trained, to train and learn, and therefore keep practices. And also as well, the transparency when you feel you doing a lot, or you feel like you overwhelmed, the transparency to be like, hey, I need to step back on this committee. I'm going to focus on this, or I have something going on in my family, personal life. And, we all always open and trying everything discussed on the group, and everybody's accountable for it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that last point. We just implemented at Open Collective Foundation a practice that we're drawing in from Lumio around stewarding, which basically is that everyone in the organization has a person that they can check in with, and it's sort of circular. So you don't have to go into the meeting with your steward and have to worry about maybe burdening them with too much information. It's the point is that someone else is carrying some of the load for you if you need to kind of talk through something. So I appreciate that care practice. And maybe the last place that I want to land with both of you, and I'll start with you, Adriana, is what's the next big challenge of your good workplace? What's the thing on the horizon that you're like, we want to get this fixed. This is what we're actively working on now. And then I'll come back to Bob after you, and we can see what the challenge is at Material Return. So over to you, Adriana.
Thank you. Well, I'm part of the association Arizmendi, and that's a small group that is kind of like how we all connected, like the spider web, the one on the center. And it started with another bakery called the Cheese Board, and they start paying duties, and then to the association and help to create another co-ops. And the one I work was the first one, and now we're number 5. And every year we retribute on that, and now we only just don't have the bakery ones. We have a construction one, a landscaping one, and we just keep growing, and also passing to the community that when the customer walks in, also they feel the ownership. We take the feedbacks, and they know that even though they don't get paid through us, but they all buying our produce, they know they have an input on what we do. And just keep getting back to the community, and with the parameters, like if somebody's going to open another bakery, we try not to open it within a mile. So and we assist each other, and we just keep growing the big co-op family around the Bay Area and beyond. I know a few years back, we have a couple of guys that they came and trained with us from the Mondragon and the Basque country, and and Europe, and that was pretty fun. Also, we had trained other co-op that opened on Canada, and just trying to put a little grain of sand on the world. Thanks.
Thank you. And yeah, Bob, and similar question to you. What's the sort of next big challenge on the horizon for building your good workplace at Material Return?
Yes. Our big challenge is being able to scale fast enough to handle what this market can throw at us, because we are only touching a percentage of the textile waste that's out there in the world for Material Return, and we didn't need to be able to scale up really quick, and anything in textiles is just a capital heavy big machine investment. It's just that's the hardest thing about it. So we are going after a lot of grants, and then hopefully we'll able to see the next co-op and everything too, but we can always use more equipment. So that's one of those big challenges that you always have whenever you're doing a startup like this in such a big business. It's just a big bulky high volume business. But I think the next thing is for us and the new co-ops that are seated in is to be able to have those funds in this loan fund that our incubator, the Industrial Commons, is working on. It's called Capital for the Commons. It's hyper important for us to be able to have this, to not make these worker owners have to put in, take out loans on their houses and things like that in order to start these co-ops, because it is in North Carolina, textiles are coming back fast and coming back strong, because everything left in in 94. So we lost probably 90% of our textile companies in the U.S. just because of NAFTA and things like that. So we need to be able to offer these brands more and more and more work and teach them ways of sustainability. So there's another education piece that we're kind of working on at Material Return, as well as on the domestic production. So we're doing a lot of outreach for domestic production, sustainability, and research and development and things like that. So those are some of the challenges that we're working on. It's a difficult business. Textiles are crazy. I've been in manufacturing my entire life. It seems like second nature to me. When you come in from the outside and look at it, you're like, how does anybody make clothing in in the world? But we're happy to take it on. We're good. We're good at making things. We've been doing it for hundreds of years. My entire family's worked in manufacturing. I have my entire life, and it makes you happy to know that you're creating something that my kid and other kids in the community be able to grow up and actually want to work there. That's the biggest thing. I've been told my whole life is, hey, never go into manufacturing. Every kid going through school, don't go into manufacturing. You're stuck in a job forever. And if we want to have things in the U.S., we need to make things in the U.S. too. So that's important for us.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you very much, Adriana and Bobby. Appreciate you giving us that glimpse into your particular workplaces, your elements of accountability and relationship, getting people invested in a shared vision, being able to scale while ensuring that everyone knows what's happening in the profit and loss statements. So all of those things are valuable, valuable learnings and valuable lessons. We will have a more comprehensive possible space for comments or questions at the end, but feel free to both of them will be in the chat, possibly able to kind of wrangle or drop a few responses. So with that, I want to kind of pull back from this segment and then hand over to Sassy for our next segment.
Awesome. Thanks. That's so much interesting stuff. As both a person who grew up sewing and producing textiles and a former Bay Area worker owner of a bakery, I'm just sitting here snapping like this is yes, I'm here for all of it. I will absolutely work on those croissants with you, Adriana. It is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. There's some really rich, deep stuff in there. I knew that the North Carolina, textile economy was coming on back. I didn't know how strong. So this is wonderful, good, juicy stuff. But I want to pivot us a little bit to thinking about those third and fourth principles of the solidarity economy. And so we've got, some amazing folks here from Shy Fresh Kitchen. We've got Kimberly in the room, and also from Cooperatus, I believe we've got Anna and Isaac here representing. And so I really I'm gonna start by tossing the mic to Kimberly. So just to ground us really quickly, liberation culture, right? That idea that a workplace should be liberatory, not utopian, but it's, just there's a lot going on there, right? And so in addition to that cultural commitment to anti-racism, you may have justice involved, immigrant involved, reentry from incarceration, disability, centering identities that are oppressed and marginalized as a component of like a byproduct of your economic livelihood, just is so rich. And so to speak a little bit about Shy Fresh Kitchen and maybe how liberation culture shows up in that work, I'd love to pass the mic to Kimberly and invite you to tell us a little bit about Shy Fresh and how liberation shows up in your good workplace.
Okie dokie. Hello, can you guys hear and see me? Because I only see you.
Yes, we got you. I hear you and I see you.
Okay. Hey everybody, I'm Kimberly from Shy Fresh Kitchen. We are a workers co-op of minority, formerly incarcerated individuals. It's composed of 5 people as of yet because of the space, and we deliver, cater fresh food made on a daily basis. So a typical day for us is maybe making, it used to be 200 to 500 meals. Currently, we are feeding the whole Carol Robertson network on the west side of Chicago, as well as a couple of other charter schools. We are breaking into, right now we feed Pilgrim, Northlake, and we're trying to get a contract in with Anaconda on the south side of Chicago. We are looking forward to, at the end of this month, moving into our own space in the Grand Crossings area on 71st and King Drive, where it'll be much more space, much more equipment, so that we can break into being able to hire other people who experience the same walls and just breakdowns that we experience coming home from being incarcerated, like not being able to find a job, background check, just different things like that. And if they are able to find work, then it's not a livable wage. So we want to help people who have experienced the same things we have, as well as feed our community and the babies at school good food that they'll actually eat and won't have to harass mommy to hurry up and cook dinner when they get home.
Amen. So I'm hearing so many themes of liberation in there, right? Like empowering folks who've been through what you've been through, making sure they have access to like the good jobs, making sure kids have access to good food, making sure mothers have access to good support, like all that
Yes.
as a bag of chips. So
Yes.
that sounds lovely. And congratulations on getting your own kitchen, moving into your own space.
Thank
It's a big
you. We
deal.
are so excited. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We
Yeah.
worked hard for it.
Amen. Thank you for that. So I want to pause on that. I'll have some more questions for you in a hot second, but I want to pass
Okay.
the mic real quick to the folks from Cooperatus to tell us a little bit about who y'all are, and ground in that, kind of democracy and process principle as well, right? Like, how do y'all share power? How does that look for you? And we'll dig more into that in a moment, but I want to pass the mic to either Anna or Isaac, whoever wants to jump in first. So I see Isaac, take yourself off mute, and then tell us a little bit about what y'all are up to and what does good work look like for y'all.
Yeah, thank you. We do a lot of joint decision making because of a lot of inability to make individual decisions. Like having people to collaborate with and having people to bounce ideas off of. So we got started in a few different parallel lanes. We don't all do the same work. We're largely technology based, or at least it's very much like virtual assistants or consulting based. And there are 4 of us right now, and we all have very unique and different skill sets. And so we came together wanting to become more than the sum of our parts, offer a variety of services with one outfit to smaller businesses where like we can offer a sliding scale because web hosting costs this much, the design piece costs this much. I know tech support and cybersecurity, so I can like consult on those things or give you education on those things so that it's not a really big cost for you to run the digital aspect of your business and any community organizing that you want to do. So we do some hybrid book publishing, we do some website and design consulting, we do actual website hosting and other services and tools. We're really interested in open source software, the flexibility and the dynamicness of not having closed source code so that it's more robust in the world at large, so that it is a shared economy in the same way that our cooperative is. And just general, like I want people to learn more about the technology that they need for their day-to-day business. And I don't want them to have to pay someone to constantly help them. So like, I mean, I will, bespoke support. If it's like, just please fix it, I'll pay you some money and come in and do it and take care of it. That's great. I'm happy to come and help. But I also am really passionate about understanding the tools that we work with. We make assumptions about the safety of our tools. And we put a lot of trust even in the hardware for our computers and phones that they're going to be secure, that they're going to be reliable. And we live in a world where private industry is liable to take that away or to falter at any time because of the way that it's structured. So we also have a lot of focus on our interpersonal. So a huge amount of our meetings every week with each other is like this much business and then this much emotional processing and support for one another. And we have a member, Jesse, who is like building a interpersonal relationship, employment, communication, consultancy as her lane, so that it's like, do you need some more information on what it means to be anti-biased? Do you need information about being queer or being trans? Because many of us are coming from these communities ourselves and coming from experiences of being leaders in community organizations, but also being class aware, being trauma informed, and really honing in on like, we recognize that we're all white presenting people and we don't want to like invade spaces, and we want to show up with the experiences that we have and that we can share. But yeah, we're spread out. Like Anna and Luke are members that are in Atlanta, which is like Muskogee and Cherokee land. Jesse and I travel around. So right now we're in Utah. So you go shoot Eastern Shoshone folks. We're trying to be integrated with like more community stuff and like, oh, hey, are you organizing? Can we, if we can offer something for free, we will. But do you have a few bucks to toss our way to help you out with technology, passion projects, and organizing? I just talked a lot and I forgot to set the timer that I set for myself.
You're good. You're absolutely good. Thank you for that lovely grounding. I love it. I heard a couple of themes of not just democratizing internally, but also kind of democratizing access to technology as one of your themes. So I love that you really brought that in. I would love to also briefly hear from Anna as well. Like, how does democracy in process and good work show up for you and your side of this lovely collective?
I mean, Isaac and I, he's reading straight off of the form that we built together. But for me, I did not come from, he has a lot of experience. He and Luke have a lot of experience in cooperative mindsets. And so I've been in a lot of non-democratic, very much top-down organized structures for all of my life. And coming in to the co-op 2 years ago and seeing how things can be actually all on the same level, and you don't have to have one person making decisions or even a C-suite making decisions, and we can all have our own voices. We all listen, we all vote on things in our meetings together. We have not just business things we vote on, but sometimes our intersection of personal life and business happens a lot with our co-op, and I think that's partly because it's a smaller one. But I've loved how the democratic and structural side of the co-op is actually complementary to personal life, and I think that integration is something that I've never seen in out there job, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see some lovely questions come in the chat, but I want to kind of move us. This is a theme you just brought up, Anna, of the feeling of being able to actually like fully participate, and how that was, a liberation for you, actually, oh, wait, we could be actually all coming together. And Kimberly, if you're available, I'd love to pass the mic back to you real quick to ask about, you shared was to give folks a job that was like, where you knew what they'd been through, you'd been through it together, had a similar experience. But I just wanted to ask you, like, how does it feel to work with your fellow workers in ChiFresh? Like, what's different about like the feeling or the experience of owning this business together? And how does
okay. So first of all, there's no boss. We don't have to hit a time clock. We work together to figure out our timing so that we could get the food out to the clients on time, hot. And basically, we created our own environment inside of here. You know what I'm saying? We knew what we wanted, what our workspace to feel like, look like. We all have been friends for several years. And so us already knowing each other, that really don't feel like work, So when we come in for a typical day, don't get me wrong, it's not without a little havoc and all of that. And we are currently trying to find a way to incorporate accountability, because that's something that we didn't play into at first when we was designing what we wanted our company to look like. So we definitely have to do a little working. Being as though we've been knowing each other and each other's personality for a while, it usually ends up just fizzling out, and we know our mission and what we really want to focus in on, and that's what we try to focus on. But it's really a cool atmosphere. We had the music going to keep everybody motivated and uplifted, and we just coming in to complete our goal for that day and take it from there. So that's a typical day at ChiFresh.
I love it. And I don't know if you were intending to show us your beautiful product, but we've been looking at it and it's gorgeous.
Have you? No,
so I think
I want you to see me.
No, I'm we'd love to see
Yeah,
your
we
beautiful
preparing
face.
for lunch. We're preparing right now cold sandwiches for lunch tomorrow for the kids to get them
Amen.
something. You know, it's hot outside, so we want to get them something cool. We waiting to
Excellent.
put the vegetables on the tray, and yeah, so this just part of the production right here.
Amen.
Sorry
I love that
about
we're
that. I thought y'all was looking at me. I'm looking at you, so I thought you was looking at me.
Hey now, I don't hate an inadvertent tour of your workplace right now. We're getting a real life
Right.
witnessing of what good work looks like. And I
Right.
love that you shared, like, yeah, there's it's not like it's not work, right? And it's not like
Right.
it's not the kind of work that you're doing. Food service can be really tough. It can be literally havoc inducing, but it still sounds like it's a really good workplace, like a really good time with each other.
Yes. Overall, 90% of the time, that's the type of atmosphere that we working with. And you know, of course, when things arrive, we got to try to figure out how to work them because we really haven't, you know, been taught how to work through things like that in the workplace.
Yeah.
Except for, you know, a boss telling you no, go home, clock out, and all of that. So that's not this type of party over here. So we just kind of just let everything drown out and just keep it moving and get the product out. And yeah, so that's what we're about.
Thank you. Love that. And thank you. And thank you for the tour. Appreciate it. I'm here for it. Mike, so I want to pass the mic back before we move to the next section. Anna and Isaac, I would love to hear just from y'all a little bit on how does it feel and to work at Cooperatives, and how does kind of liberation and democracy kind of show up for y'all? And are there any challenges you're working on? Right, Kimberly acknowledged that they're working on accountability, right? They got to weave that back in strongly. Is there anything in kind of liberation and democracy that y'all are working on at Cooperatives?
Yeah. Like the biggest things that we love about it, like the freedom of it, you know, we don't dread going to work. You're choosing in to the work that you're doing. You're not feeling obligated to be there. And I don't have to worry about sharing personal things about myself that, you know, get you fired at a corporate environment because you shared your life experience. But the community support is really, really key because sometimes things are really hard. We lean on each other when we need to. We share responsibilities. We try to delegate and offload and teach each other how to help support one another because we do have those different lanes and skill sets. And so we do mini check-ins with each other at the beginning of each meeting. We do longer form checkouts at the end. We really try to key into remembering that we're humans first, and there are also people in our co-op that have different levels of ability, and so like we're choosing into accommodations whenever possible with like a light heart rather than out of some sort of legal obligation or requirement. And it's still really hard because of like productivity mindset and having to have a tangible, like, this is how I'm valuable because I'm contributing in XYZ ways. And so it's really challenging when things are difficult, or like, hey, we've got to increase our revenue if we're going to be able to be sustainable, if we're going to be able to survive. And that might mean taking on roles or jobs from people who can pay that aren't necessarily aligned with the values that we appreciate. And there's only so much that we can do to move their needle a little further left. But having those relationships, recognizing that the relationship is the most important thing, like if we have to dissolve it for whatever reason down the road, we all will still have really strong bonds at the end and move on and do other things with that grace and with that humanity for one another. But because resisting capitalist programming, it's a work in progress. Like those are some of our biggest frustrations and challenges, on top of just like interpersonal stuff, the same way that Kimberly shared. Like, we know each other, sometimes it's a big deal, sometimes we have to talk about it directly, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's a mild frustration, here I'm frustrated, and let's move forward. We don't need to do anything different. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Into it. I love that, both like just being humans together and trying to be human-centered business, and then, you know, unpacking all of those giant systems like, you know, capitalism, etc., inside our bodies as well as a ongoing work in progress. Anna, any last thoughts before we move to our next set of principles on what's showing up for y'all or what your challenges are?
Yeah, I would say also a part of that liberation feeling for me has to do with the flexibility and dynamism that our co-op has kind of baked in, because as Isaac has said, we all have all these various skills and skill sets. And that means that we're bringing in work from all different areas, and we're shifting our focus. And we've shifted our focus many times over the course of the past 2 years already, thinking, oh, we're going to be mostly focusing on consulting, or, oh, we're going to mostly be focusing on tech and website building. And, oh, no, actually, we're going to mostly focus on hybrid publishing and book launches. And it keeps it very fresh. It keeps it exciting. I love waking up and not dreading work. That's one of the best feelings for me, is that it's just life. It's just living and doing the next thing that I need to get done. And I think we all feel that. So keeping things fresh, it also is a huge part of preventing burnout for all of us. So those are a huge thing. And I would add also the challenge of any service organization is getting clients. And so that's another one of our big challenges, is always like having to hunt down the next client that's going to be on board for however long.
Yeah, amen. I love that. So the challenge, making sure that the pipeline is full. But I love the good work characterization you just had there of, it's not, work where I'm working for the weekend. It's just life, and I wake up and I greet it joyfully. And so that's a real good indicator to me of real strong, robust, good work. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Kimberly. Have a great time making sandwiches. Thank you, Anna and Isaac. I'm going to pass.
Welcome. Thanks.
Yes. Amen. I want to pass the mic now to Mike, who's going to bring us home with the fifth principle and talk with our last folks before we break into some dialogue.
All right, thank you very much. And yes, I'm resonating with something that Isaac was sharing at the end there about relationships, and remembering a phrase from Eric Jackson of Black Yield Institute in Baltimore, who often says relationships are the relationship is the smallest unit of organizing. So all the way down to the interplay and the interpersonal between you and me becomes the big thing on which we can build all of this cooperative infrastructure. So yes, now we're on to principle 5, dealing with education and leadership development. We've got Shalonda Ingram of Bourne Brown and Church of the Holy City. And in that principle, it discusses in line with the cooperative tradition of member education. This term includes collective learning, political education, shared research and data, study groups, mentorship, and succession planning. And it's a principle that's near and dear close to my heart as a facilitator and cooperative educator. I am a Principle 5 cooperator, and so that it's something that's very important to me, just in terms of bringing everyone along, like leave no mind behind when we're building out on these solidarity economy and cooperative principles. And so I want to invite Shalonda into the conversation to talk about how does this education and leadership development principle relate to the two spaces that have been named for you around Bourne Brown and Church of the Holy City.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate this safe space. It's one of the most humane engagements I've experienced in a while. Y'all are the best. And it's really powerful to experience this conversation. I just want to name that the work that I do is specifically with Bourne Brown is really about healing myself from the society, from the culture, and from my experience as being bussed out for my education in the desegregation program. And part of my education trained me that there were multiple universes operating, and it created a Swiss Army knife mindset for how to translate in these environments, right? And so part of the work at Bourne Brown, All Rights Reserved, is to share what I've learned with others and say, oh, blogging, journaling, music, etc., and just creating a platform where if people want to share, they can, right? And so that I took that mindset into another environment that was available for healing in the Christian church, right? And so my background is in technical production, theater, lighting, sound, etc., serious event production. So I went to a conversation hosted by Conscious Capitalism at Church of the Holy City, and the space was Blight. And I thought that was interesting, given that it's a 9,000 square foot opportunity for the community to engage, right? And so we talked and realized that it would be possible for us to test out what happens when the community activates the environment through the principles of Warren Brown. So we've done that. And we started out with a 3-month test, and we've been running now for almost 4 years. So it's a unique model where I don't have any employees, and folks are trained to set themselves up as micro enterprises, right? 1099s, how do I fill out my forms? If you're afraid to fill out those forms, who can do those forms for you, right? And so how do we build a network of communities of practice to manage some of the blight and harm and history of ambivalence that often impacts the communities that live there? And so in DC, in particular, this space was abandoned, like many Christian churches, after the MLK response. And so they built another church, and they did not want to become a Negro church, is actually what they chose to write down. And so these conversations surround environments of faith, and my inquiry for them is around spiritual entrepreneurship. So how do we build meaningful, dignified opportunities for folks where they're just being who they are, and the baseline for opening the door is that it's a public good, right? And if you're claiming that your asset should be listed as a public benefit entity, the question is, for whom are the doors open, and what does that look like? And so this model started at Church of the Holy City in DC and is now moving into other parts of the country. And I'm testing this out with people on the ground to see, hey, what would you like to have happening in your community? Oh, dance classes, amazing, right? And then the rodents and other issues gradually get dealt with because the people just need space to do their thing, right? And so there's also a parallel model with substantial rental income, which I can facilitate through the production network. So it's bringing, the concept is multimedia is the new stained glass, so that I could support the church with understanding, hey, we need to open these doors so that the roof doesn't cave in, but also people aren't reading much more. They're just watching content. And so by making content, meaningful dialogue, and materials that raise consciousness, all of these things could be accomplished at once. And then local folks have opportunities to care for environments. One person, she almost cries every time she comes because she lives in a studio apartment, and just being in a 9,000 square foot room where she has the key and is the boss for the time that she's there is deeply healing for her as a Black woman. And so it's a very powerful context, but the idea is to not have any employees in this case, but to create the pathways for people to develop micro enterprises of impact in their local spaces.
And I'm very interested, in what the sort of the process of looks like. I am very I work on a lot of onboarding processes, both at Open Collective Foundation and also with Dill Pickle Food Co-op. So I'm very interested in the onboarding process as like the sort of a really basic level of pedagogy of like, let's where are the lights, where are the keys, how do I put in the format? What is that education process?
Well, it depends on the state of the entity, right? And so in a place where there's no administrator and there's blight and nothing's going on, it's like, here you go, here are the keys, call us, and we don't have a budget, right? And so no matter what, for me, it looks like creating an incubation period for something to emerge so that I can get to know them, or the local folks can get to know what's happening in the space, and to determine if we want to engage, actually, right? And the history and legacy of labor often has Black folks at the effect of whatever did not happen or needed to happen. And this particular property was erected in 1894, and it was built by slave labor, like most of DC, right? Whether that was Irish or Black free labor. So the legacy of Christianity and the signing of the charters and things like Manifest Destiny has me very interested in how Christianity can heal some of these challenges as well, and what dignity over time looks like to them. And I can't know that without being with them and without seeing just how long, whether there's a board or if they have any policies in place, or if it's a a shell and we're building something brand new inside the very, very old, right? But either way, it's all about emergence and being available to not know, right? And a lot of Christians would say having faith in what we're doing. The confrontation is when you get to blight, there's generally a realm of embarrassment or shame associated with that. And then rage and reliance in our society interlock and impact Indigenous and Black people and people who the margins are created for in a very unique way. So that incubation period is both for myself and my mental health and wellness to get to know the board and then to know which people can be here, right? Is it vets? Is it seniors? Like who's gonna be the right mixture of humans so we can fuse something beautiful immediately and also grow and say, all right, the seniors are running this and the young folks are doing their VR events. They're just not there at the same time, So there's a way to create a culture of evolution in these spaces and say, look, we're not going to know. We're going to upset each other. I'm going to move your stuff. It's going to be irritating and we're going to do it together, right? And sometimes there's issues with pests or termites and real structural issues that need to be managed. And that's where some of those embarrassments and, it's blight, y'all. How long, who's been on the board? How long you been here? What's going on, right? And so those types of questions come up. There's also a need to get clear about who's the owner of the property. A lot of times with churches, there can be some nuance with that. But generally speaking, no less than 3 months of courting to discern whether or not it's a safe environment and whether or not the community is available for what they say their mission is. Because it's important not to harm the folks on the ground with those dynamics.
Absolutely. And I have heard maybe a subtext and I didn't know that this was going to be the arc of the sort of educational dimension, but there's this this onboarding of these institutions to say like, hey, this is what the possibilities are. But there's the preparation of the people who are holding the institution to say, this is how you have to get prepared in order to create a space that people feel comfortable entering into. Perhaps there's a nugget or a lesson that you might like to share with this group about creating workplaces that actually invite people in and don't potentially cause harm. So maybe there's a nugget you can offer there.
Yeah, well, I think I call it a culture of workability, right? And that when I'm there, dignity is present. That has to be my mindset, whether there's a homeless person sleeping on the stoop before we're letting in a film crew, that whole exchange will be dignified because I'm there and because I demand that for every human being, right? And so that type of mindset that I bring is just, it's unshakable, right? And that is where if there's an 80-year-old administrator telling me I can't have the calendar, I'm like, girl, I love you. I'm gonna get that calendar in 6 months and I'm just gonna love you until I do, right? But it's about saying yes to who they are right now and trusting that our engagement will evolve us all, right? And that's where I come from. Otherwise, I can pick people apart. I could, let the stories of white folks and Christians and all that really take over. I'm there to read the charter. I'm there to know that this land was taken from my ancestors and that somewhere along the line, the original invitation got violated, right? And that it's possible to move into a new conversation and we got to talk about what went down, right? And so for me, that self-healing commitment and my desire for my nephews not to worry about the things that I've had to heal from positions me to be in that space that the folks at Arizmendi were describing, like, no, these people, I am them, right? I'm an alias for them. And it's about moving into the concept around being an ally is great, but you could kind of stand over there and not get in the fight. But I'm an alias. I'm willing to be you, right? And I won't create any conditions that I don't want to experience, right? And so that's the primary nugget is saying, hey, if I'm going on vacation, let me look at my list of staffers and see, have they gone on vacation, right? Like really sifting for dignity in all the aspects.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing there's lots of gems that are happening here. I'm hearing this aspect of there's the practical education around, the operation of these workplaces, but, there is always political education. We do not live outside of history. We live in a present context, and we bring that context with us into workplaces, and we have to consistently re-educate ourselves out of those, workplaces and environments and communities that we have been in. So
yeah, and one other thing I will add is that I invert the process so that the church receives the capital, right? And then we break it down, how that's going to whom, the cleaning people, but we already billed for that, right? So it's actually an opportunity to evolve the way that these institutions may have related to labor as well. Because a lot of churches had the volunteer model, especially for women, so it's really powerful to, be in those dialogues and say, look, you have all the cash, like always, don't worry, right? And this is how we're going to build out dignity and move in this new direction, and even create grants or request money to support some of the micro ministries that start to happen. Because once people are in the space and they have ownership, they're like, oh, I'm going to do a dance class on Wednesdays. I'm like, of course you are, And so that can be very powerful. And simultaneously, the church members can see, oh, that's what church looks like now. That's the new church, right? They're not coming in to sit and listen to a talk, but a yoga class is synonymous to the purpose of the original use. So it's awesome. Oh, wow, I see preaching there. Uh-oh.
Yes, this has been a very generous and nourishing, concluding point to this whole dialogue, this whole engagement, so education is always happening all the time. And so thank you very much, Londa, for helping us ground in the importance of this education principle. And I want to pitch it back to Sassy to support us in moving towards close.
Yeah, thank you for that. Such rich dialogue, so much richness happening, both from your own perspective, also just noticing the thread of like artists and art competent folks in the room, organizing by any note of name, right? You can do that all in all the places, all the ways. What I'd love, and maybe we can take the slides down so we can see each other's faces a little bit more strongly. What I'd love to do is, in our remaining 15 minutes, I want to invite us to actually integrate some of the lovely conversation that we've got, actually put some of this into practice. We've got a lot of brilliant humans in this room, right? We've got a lot of really incredible movers and shakers and creators of good work in here. And even I've been in this my literal whole life, and I just learned a bunch of stuff. I would really love to kind of process and deconstruct that with folks, and maybe even think about one strong way that I can take back some of these lessons and apply them into my own practice. And so we want to get everybody together and actually have a little conversation about that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create some breakout rooms, and we're going to actually get the chance to talk with each other for, call it 15 minutes. We'll come back together at the end of that just to share any themes or commitments that we want to raise or calls to action that we want to share for each other in applying some of this work. But what I want to invite us to now is I'm going to go ahead and create some breakout rooms. If you can stay with us, I encourage you to do so. We'll break into those rooms. You'll get an invitation to join one. You can go hang out, talk amongst yourselves, apply whatever knowledge you'd like, and then we'll call you back into the space, high five, drink some water, and end our time together. So does that sound all right to y'all? Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. I have gone ahead and created the rooms now. You should have gotten an invitation. Go ahead, hang on in there. If you need any help, I'll stay here to make sure you get it, and we'll see you in 10. Excellent. Speaking of recording, so thank you all so much. I just want to, yes, absolutely. Mike, I was going to say, do you have anything we want them to exit with? So lovely prompt that Mike has just shared. Do you want to give voice to that real quick?
Absolutely. Well, before I give voice to that, I will just name my daughter attended in elementary a school called Betty Shabazz International Charter, and the principal was fond in graduation, and it was an African-centered school. The principal was fond at graduation of telling the students, the reward for good work is more work. So, so what you have here is just a prompt for
That's
you to
great.
take with you and just say, like, what is your next elegant step? This is something that I'm borrowing from Highlander. They used to have a question at the end that says, you know, beginning, it's like, what do you want to do? At the end, it's what are you going to do? So what is your next elegant step? And what is a commitment you would like to make for yourself based upon what you heard today? You can take that with you and you can reflect on that and you can continue moving with the people in this room. Okay.
Amen to that. And I would just love as I would love us to kind of close. I'm going to take that and I'll put it on a sticky note right here next to my computer, next to my wall so I can see it and ask myself and be in community with each other. But if anybody, as we close, if anybody had kind of a one-word reflection that you'd like to share on what we did today, what you learned, anything that really struck you, please feel free to share that in the chat. You know, what's one word that kind of encapsulates what you're taking away from this today? And as folks do that, I will just say, thank you so much for showing up. Good work only happens in between people. We come together to make it happen. We came together today. I want to thank, you know, Elizabeth, who is hopefully centering her health right now, for having this idea and bringing us together. Elias for lighting the fire and calling the team into the room. Mike for being an excellent on-the-fly co-host with me, and for all of our amazing folks who have presented, shared, lifted the curtain, showed their workplace, and proved the possible by being here in their presence today. So as I see, you know, nourishing, gratitude, meaningful, hopeful, emergence, dignity, connections, I hope we can take all that energy and go into the world with that today. And so my last words will be, you know, stay safe, wash your hands, drink water, and we will see y'all real soon.
Bye, everybody.
All
Thanks,
right.
Cassie. Thanks, Mike. Peace. Bye, guys.